team rap Jesus. We about to go far. My team rap Jesus. My team go hard. My team rap Jesus. We about to go far. We about to go far.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Fervently Creations Marketplace Ministry. This is where we love talking to people that are doing things not only inside the four walls of the church, but actually outside of the four walls of the church. My question is to everyone, when you actually go outside of the four walls of the church, do they see that you are still a child of the Most High? What I tell people, you have to remember that they are 5 gospels. Yep, that's right. It's 5. It's Matthew, it's Mark, it's Luke, it's John, and it's you. Sometimes the only one they're going to pay attention to, the only one they're going to give ear to, or maybe the first one they're going to give ear to is actually going to be you. They're not going to pick up the Bible first sometime. And so you actually have to be able to be that light. You have to be able to apply scripture to your life. There's a lot of people that know how to quote scripture, but it's not a lot of people actually applying scripture to their life. You cannot tell. They may know how to quote the scriptures, but their life is not a representation that they actually know it. So what are you doing once you're outside in the marketplace, once you are out in government, once you're in politics, whether you're in business, whether you're in family, whether you're in education, whether you are in arts, in entertainment, whatever it is that he have you to do, can they actually see the light? Are you actually being the light in a dark world? So on this show, we actually bring different people just to kind of see. And this time we have the amazing authors of I'm Not Okay. This is the show that I've been looking forward because this one, we have the men. We have the men of I'm Not Okay that actually took the time and wrote with us. You know, women, they say, women will cry outside in public. We'll vent all day long. But they say men will cry in the shower because sometimes men don't even want to see the tears on their face. And so they mask it that way. But these men were bold enough to actually say, you know what? There was a point in my time. There was a point in my life. It was a point in time to where I was not okay. I was not okay. We are okay now. And we want to be able to give other people hope. We want to be able to give you tools. We want to give you tools to actually help you get to that point, but also normalizing saying, I'm not okay. So with that, if you want to meet some of these authors, make sure you come to the Renewed Mind in Christ Conference. Renewed Mind in Christ Conference is going to be June 21st, June 23rd in Huntsville, Alabama. This is where we're also talking about mental health, but we're also going to be talking about mindset shifts. We're also going to be talking about marketplace ministry, and we're going to be talking about deliverance. Listen, everything is not a demon. Let me first say that. Everything is not a demon. Some stuff you just need to change your mindset. Some stuff you need to change the way you look at something. Some stuff is I would say it's still a spirit mental health, but it still needs to be addressed in the church. We need to normalize talking about mental health amongst the church, because sometimes we just say, you know what, just pray about that thing, or you need to cast that out and don't take ownership of it, but we still need to process it. Someone said a few shows ago, hey, sometimes you need a pastor and you need a therapist too. And so we're trying to normalize that. We're trying to normalize talking about that. But meet us June 21st, June 23rd in Huntsville, Alabama. Here's what it looked like last year. Awesome. So as we go in and we start talking about the authors of from I'm Not Okay, let me tell you first how you can get the book. You can get the book by going to Amazon, Amazon.com. Get your Kindle copy for $2.99, or you can get your paperback copy for $24.99. You know what? Or reach out to some of these amazing authors. Buy it directly from them so you can get an autographed copy. Yes, They will autograph your copy for you. So order directly from them, because once you get it from Amazon, you ain't gonna have a signature on it. So if you see some of these authors on here and you're like, you know what, I really want my book signed by this person, reach out to them, figure out how to purchase through them, and go ahead and pre-order so you can go ahead and get your copy. So with that being said, let's bring up some of the authors. We got Dexter Manning. We got Dimitri Rayner and Taquel Morris Rodriguez. Did I say it wrong?
No, you said it right. You're good.
I studied it too hard. All right. Dexter Manning, you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dexter Manning, and I'm from Elgin, South Carolina. And my chapter in the book is I'm okay. I've been living in Elgin now for approximately 4 years. I'm a retired military, Army, and did 30 years of service in the Army, and it was a great tour. But most of all, during that time frame, I served Christ.
Hi everyone, my name is Dimitri Rayner. I am a family man. I am an entrepreneur. I am also an author. The title of my chapter in the book is "Rejection is Not Your Portion." The reason that means so much to me really is because if we look in the word, it says that the thoughts that God thinks towards us are of love and peace, not of evil, and that he has an expected end for us. And for me, there was a long time that I didn't understand. I didn't even know really the thoughts that God thought towards me. I did not understand his love, and I definitely didn't know that there was an expected end for me. So in my chapter, I really talk a lot about my journey in life from childhood, because I understand that with rejection, a lot of it starts in childhood traumas or childhood experiences. And so I go into that because we want to be whole. We want to be all that God has called us to be. And one of the things that will hinder us from doing that is living a life in rejection.
Hello, everybody. I'm Taquel Morris Rodriguez, and I'm a father. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an author. I'm an educator. And my chapter in the book is the weight of expectations. And so it's, talking about a young man who dealt with the world on his shoulders at all times. I didn't know how to make his own decisions. He grew up in the church, but also grew up feeling so weighted down because of everybody else's opinion, thinking of how they felt, trying to carry the burdens of everyone else and not realizing that I myself was sinking. And so definitely it's something that, came from the heart again because of the expectations of my parents, my mom, my grandmother, my pastor, my friends, and then even growing up, you still deal with those expectations.
There we go. Okay, so as it is, y'all apologize. Is it still muting me?
I can hear you.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. So my thing was saying it was mute. So once it comes to men, and I'm gonna start the question off with you, Manning. Y'all excuse me. That's how I have to. It feels so odd calling you Dexter. So Manning, I'm gonna start off with you. In the military, and the same thing for you, Dimitri. We were taught that, once you go to mental health or behavioral health, it was kind of symbolized as a sign of weakness. Going to sick call alone, you had the whole thing, sick call ranger. But once it comes to actually going to mental health, that was something that was hard for any soldier to do, let alone as men. Can you talk about it from the perspective of being a soldier and actually realizing that, hey, I need help. I need to go to counseling. I need some type of therapy. How did that affect you?
So during my career, I didn't feel anything like I needed assistance or help. And I'll tell you the real reason why. And although some of it will come out in the book, the real reason why behind that is because I was focused on everyone I was serving, the soldiers and their well-being. So I was going through things, but at the same time, I was just pressing, and I didn't stop to think about myself and needing help. And so it wasn't until I retired that I began to feel different, and then I knew I needed help. Well, up to the point of retirement, and things was brought out, and once I finally went to a counselor. But to the point of your question, we try to build a character of toughness in soldiers or our military structure, and doing so, we have taken this notion that it's a sign of weakness to go to sick call and to go get help, because you see so many people abuse the system that when those who actually need it, they're not getting the help they need because they don't want to go unless they just feel like, well, I don't care because I know I need this and I'll go. But then there's retribution and things of that nature, unfortunately, towards them because they're gone a lot or out of the ranks. So it's a challenge. But at the same time, the military has evolved, and I'll just speak from the Army side because that's what I know. We evolved, and we understand that mental health is as important as your physical health. Just so as you build up the muscle and the body and the tissues, you need to build your mindset to be strong also. So in doing so, we have transitioned, understanding that you need help, go get help, talk to someone. I remember clearly during one of the deployments, one of the first sergeants, he had been out so much and different combat attacks and things of that nature, or different movements. And he came in and he told the sergeant major at the time, he said, "Hey, I just need to get away. I need some time." And he said, "I'll just sit in the tent for a few days." And then the sergeant major said, "No, I'm going to send you away to Qatar and let you go relax, and I'll see you in a week. We'll just shut down missions if we can afford to." So, at times now, mental health is important and it's understood. But that was a unique leader because I was in awe that he did that for him at that time because that person was going through. So, yeah.
He's speaking. Okay, so Dimitri, we know that you went to the other side. That's fine. But tell us.
You're on the best side.
I don't know if y'all was able, if the Marines were able to kind of go over. They might allow y'all to go to behavioral health. I don't know, but how was it from the Marine side?
Well, I would say, so I started in the Marine Corps from 93 to 97. During that time, I went right after high school. So during that time, for me, mental health, if you mention the terms mental health, to me, I thought it was somebody that was mentally unstable, and so I didn't go and seek counseling for anything. I kind of dealt with my issues, whatever I had going on. I always told myself, I'm from the streets. I know how the streets operate. No matter where I go, I have that with me and I'm going to figure it out. And I went in with the mentality of a street mentality, even into the military. And so it wasn't a mental health conversation for me. As far as even going to sick call in the Marine Corps, I always ended up in a real tough unit. So my leaders would say, if you got to go to sick bay, you better really be sick. I mean, really be sick. Like, we need to see you about to pass out or something to go and say that you can't be here on duty. And so I remember, even being in the service, and I didn't understand what it was then, but I was even dealing with rejection issues then, because I remember dealing with racism. I had a staff sergeant who treated me less than some of the other Marines who was of a different color than I was, and we were all in a team. And I actually at the time was, so my MOS or my job was dealing with communications. We set the land network up, the land network for the whole battalion. Basically what we did on a daily basis was prepare for, if there was a war, we still have to have internet for the officers to be able to communicate, during that time of crisis. And so I was the only Black on my team. And I was not treated fairly. And I dealt with that for a long time because, you know, from my standpoint, how are you going to go and say somebody's not treating you right? You better have real proof. There was another time where when I shaved, my face would bump up really bad. Well, I had to go to sick call and get a note that carry around with me that says I can't shave. And so people would look at me as if I was less than a good Marine, but it was because of my skin. I couldn't help that. But yet on the rifle range, I was a 2-time expert shooter. I knew just as much as everybody else in my unit, if not more. But appearance, people would look at me and judge me. And there were times where I felt less than because of how I was being treated. So yeah, I always try to figure it out on my own, and that's what I did, but it really wasn't the best way to handle it.
So, Taekwondo, I'm not sure if you were in the Marine. I'm gonna say this real quick. You know, Dimitri, you were saying, you know, hey, I came from the, you know, the streets. What you knew what originally came from the street, and that was kind of with me. My PTSD did not come from the military. I did not have issues to where I dealt with PTSD, and maybe if I had situations where other people may have considered it or something that was so traumatic for them in the military, I had already experienced it in a young age. I had already seen someone, you know, murdered out at the age of 15, you know, so close up on it. And so, you know, a lot of times I didn't, you know, things that affected some people in the military, I'm sitting here looking at them like, you're not from the hood, are you? You're from the hood. And so it was kind of look different for me on some of the things. Just like, but like I said, my PTSD came from the streets. My trauma, it came from either the streets or it came from sexual trauma that happened to me prior to. But even though it's on my medical records, it's not from the military at all. It is actually from the streets. Taekwondo, once it comes to the streets, living life or whatever in the streets, it is things that actually in our everyday life. You know, we talk about it from the perspective of military, but you could talk about it more so from, you know, dealing with certain stuff, living homeless, like being homeless, that would actually traumatize someone. Having to live in a car, thinking that you got a place to stay, and then next thing you don't. Can you talk about the trauma of that, or how it affects one's mental, you know, their mental health from that perspective?
So one of the biggest things is dealing with the how to, you know, once something happens, what do you do now? You know, so dealing with, you know, whether it's being homeless, that's my story. You know, that's my testimony that I'm able to live up to. And I say now live up to it proudly. Being homeless, living in a car, still trying to pursue my education when I had others around me that could have made a way for me. And so the trauma from that is always trying to work ahead, trying to work, you know, double ahead so that you don't fall into that predicament again. I recall being in the line and it literally said on top of it, homeless. And so as a young man, as a man, number one, that grew up in the streets, right? Mom was on drugs, but dad sold big drugs. And my dad was one of the biggest drug dealers in the city. I come from the streets. And so, you know, being that person and then pursuing education, not many people that I grew up with went to college. Not many people that I grew up with, you know, tried to do anything for themselves. And so here I am, this kid that, you know, again, I never graduated high school because of one test. And so one Regis test. So I figured out ways to strategically get me into a college program. And so I went and I got one associate, then I got two associates, got one bachelor's, and then I got two bachelor's because, again, that trauma from everything that was happening around me made me feel that I needed to be better than everybody else. And when I say that, I don't mean technically be better than them, but do more than them, because I was that kid who was always struggling. Right. I was that kid who mom was on drugs. So it's like, you know, that kid isn't going to do anything. So again, everything I did, I felt in my heart that I had to do double. Right. And so with doing double, again, that works on your mind, that works on your psyche, all of those things. And so now you're trying to figure out, how can I, you know, do what I do, but also be in a good mental headspace. And that was one of the biggest things. Again, dealing with everyone's word and dealing with what people have to say, all of those things. I believe in my heart, and I'm a firm believer, I tell everybody this. One of the biggest things is that I dealt with those things in order to prepare me for who I am now today. with being an educator, with being a building leader of a high school, that's one of the things that I'm able to pick up on right away. I'm able to pick up on vibes. I'm able to pick up on temperatures of how people are feeling, what they're going through. When people say, good morning, you can tell a different good morning, right? So Tuesday you said good morning, and then on Wednesday you say good morning, but it's just a little bit lower octave. You're able to kind of feel all of those things and filter through all those things. And that's one of the biggest things. But again, a lot of people, we don't talk about trauma, right? That's taboo. So when you talk about trauma, you're the weak person, all of those things. And so again, dealing with that trauma is one of the biggest things that I've able to say that I am who I am today because I endured them for sure.
Awesome. So Tyquel, your chapter was actually titled The Weight of Expectation. And
Yes.
with that, I think with men, we don't realize the weight that actually is on the shoulder of men, right? What it is that y'all carry and how that weight actually affects you. As someone has said, striving for achievement, or being that overachiever. It's just like y'all are not. It's not okay for y'all to be weak. It's not okay for y'all to cry. It's not okay for y'all to say, that's the norm. It's not okay for y'all to do that. Like, it starts off in childhood. You let a female fall off a bike and it's just like, oh, and they pat him and this, that, another. And then you let the male, same age, or the male can even be 2 years younger. And then it's a comment of, quit crying like a little girl. You'll be all right. It's just a little scratch. It's just, and so we never gave men a safe place to actually be vulnerable. We never give men a safe place to actually express their feelings or even teach them how to process their feelings, right? And so in that, once life begins to start life, and now we're wondering why we're married to men that don't know how to express or communicate what they're going through.
Absolutely.
And it's because it was never a safe place for them to do it in the first place. So it's an expectation, an unrealistic expectation on men to always be strong. Let's talk about the weight of the expectation.
I think one of the biggest examples is what you said. You said you cry, you sound like a little girl, and so that teaches a little boy that you're not supposed to hurt. You're not supposed to express all of your feelings, all of those things. And so what you don't handle as a little kid, now you have as an adult. And so now it just magnifies because this person is now and maybe educated, this person is now grown, this person has a family of their own, and they're not able to matriculate how they really feel. One of my biggest issues I dealt with is being able to say how I feel in present time. Right? I was able to say how I feel later on down the road, but how I feel right now. And again, that was because of that thing of you cry like a little girl, you're a little sissy, all of these things. And I don't think that people meant harm by it, but it's stuff that we don't know. It's, little triggers, little trauma things that we put on people that we don't realize how they're able to handle it. If you bake as a male, you're a sissy. All of these things, it's little things that, again, we traumatize men and now we put them in a box. And so when females marry a man and he doesn't, he doesn't express his feelings, or he goes to bed upset because he doesn't know how to express it, then it's every other word he is. Versus the fact that this is the way that you're raising your kid right now, right? You're raising your kid right now to not go to school and to not tell on us kid or not do all of these things. And a lot of stuff I refer back to as education because that's what I've been doing, right? And so again, as a parent, I tell my son all the time, first of all, you're able to express your feelings. Even me being your dad, as a single dad, you're able to, we can go back and he'll say, Dad, can I just say this? Can I just say this? And again, it gives him that platform where you're able to talk how you feel in present time, because a lot of my peers are now either dead or in jail. But again, a lot of it is stuff that they've grown up with. They've never been able to deal with those kind of things. And so we're raising generations upon generations that are, for lack of better terms, they're messed up, right? And so what we don't handle now, we just, again, we repurpose them. And so we try to clean them up and then we put them in the church. And so even if they're in the church, it's this facade of, go to your leader of the church. You don't need to go to, mental health counseling, all of these things. And when we don't do that, we're putting on the stigma that the church is able to handle it all. And in the Bible, God gave us doctors, right? And so we're not using all these things that God really gave us. And that's the problem. And that's where we're running into all of these things to where now people are getting burnt out and now they don't want to do church anymore. Or now they don't want to have a relationship with God. And it's based on the way that someone raised them. Someone told them along the way that you can't do this. And that's what happens. And so again, we are literally having repurposed traumas from something that happened as a kid. I recently told someone, and I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. And they was like, yes, you are. And I was like, I'm really not. And they was like, yeah, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm really not, because of the fact that I've always dealt with this way. And I had to think about it when I said it. And I'm like, you know what? I literally just spoke that into existence. No, you know what? I do know how to handle it. And this is how I want to handle it moving forward. And so, again, my biggest thing is just making sure that we understand that you are going to have vulnerable moments. When my grandmother passed, right, that was one of the most traumatic things in my life. My father passed in 2002 when I was 12 years old. And I thought, again, life was over. But when my grandmother passed in 2017, life literally past me. I remember being driving down 280 in Birmingham, and I remember getting the call, and after that, I didn't know what to do. And so we're talking about days and days and days and days of not knowing how to handle the fact that I cry at home, but I got to smile in front of other people. With the fact that when I'm in front of other people, my emotions start coming up, and then now what do? I got to run to the bathroom, or I got to suppress it. And so when I suppress it, now I'm home alone, and I have nobody to tell me, you know what, you got this. And that's one of the biggest things, is that sometimes as men, we want to get rid of this stuff. We don't want to keep carrying this, because when we keep carrying it, then we lash out and we don't know what's going to happen after that point. And that's one of my big things.
So Manny, he was speaking on, once his mom, I think he said grandmother, but once your mom died, military, it kind of teaches us like, hey, suck it up and drive on. Like, you don't really have time. We don't take the time to process it, because we're kind of wired that way to just pick it, suck it up, drive on, keep moving. Talk about the process of not really having that time to process certain things, the deaths. And in your situation, I want to say, was deaths kind of after death, and not having the time to process it, because everyone's looking for you to take care of them. Everybody's looking to you for emotional support. Everyone's looking to Manning for the right words, for the encouraging word. They're looking to you to be strong, and you just suck it up and drive on.
Yeah, so absolutely. So my mother passed away. My father had already passed away approximately 10 years prior. Then my mother passes away, and let alone, how timing in life is all coincidental. So my father passed away 10 years prior, October or either November 5th. Well, my mother, her date was the month prior to that, on the 5th, just years later, right? So you look at all these coincidences. And then my sister passes away about 15, 20 days after that, same year, my mother passed away to my sister. And I hadn't even made it home from burying my mother in North Carolina. After 2 funerals, you had to do one in New York with the church, and then had to do another one for family in North Carolina, right? So you get past that, I'm gonna head home. I'm gonna stop in Augusta and go to church with my church family, former church family there. And that Saturday, I get a phone call. My sister passed away. So here I am. I haven't even had the opportunity to mourn after planning one funeral, and now I have to plan another funeral and keep moving on. And everybody's going haywire and having fits, and I have to keep everyone at bay, because we all have family members pass away before, and we know how family can get. They start seeing dollar signs and everything else, and who knows whatever, and you're trying to hold everything together. And so, didn't have time to process. And I'll tell you, it was probably a year or two afterwards. And I'm laying down, and no, it was longer than that, matter of fact, probably almost 4 to 5 years. And I came in for church on Mother's Day, lay across the bed, and I found myself crying. Didn't know what I was crying for. But then I realized that was the empty space there from my mother and my sister. And I mentioned it in the book. They were my everything. That special place for both of them. Many of us are mama boys at times, if you will. But my sister was that, like, my close bond. Like, even when you were wrong, she would just say, "You're wrong, bro," but, and she would just embrace me. So it was tough. And then you see it afterwards. I remember a year after my mom passed away, or that for upcoming Mother's Day, I'm in the store buying Mother's Day cards for all these people that I usually do. Then I get home with one for my mother. I was like, wow, where you at? You haven't accepted or what have you. So, and I dare not. I was like, well, I'm not going to throw the Mother's Day card away. I framed it. And I just had to keep it. It was my last card to her. But accepting and processing was probably the toughest challenge, because family is still looking to you and they're crying more so than you are. And you just saying to yourself, you just don't know how I need to empty. And you don't get the chance to it often until they hit you, because there was times I said, I just want to go sit down and cry and just get it out. But I couldn't muster up anything on the inside to get it out. So I just pressed forward. And then I found out in pressing, you continue to press. And I said, tell you, brother, Taquel, you was all over, like where I'm at, and talking with people in ministry, in the office, about men and understanding men and having a safe place and expectations. And they really don't understand. And I think one of the things for us as men is having another man to talk to. But this is the key. Having another man to talk to understand, because we get too spiritual and we'll often go to the point of, well, I did something wrong, or let's just say I sinned and this was it. But I think I can talk to my brother about it. Then I go and mention it to my brother. And now my brother wants to break down the Bible and every scripture and every chapter for me and educate me. And I was telling a good friend the other day, I said, but that's not what we need. The good friend would say, well, how you feeling? Why did you make that decision? What caused you to make that decision? Now, I'm still going to pray with you, but I can understand where you're at, because I had some feelings like that before. But see, we want to go ahead and take the Bible and cram it down their throat as if it's going to fix them. That's not what we need. And I often tell them, I'm about to slow down here because I feel something. But I often tell my friends that I have 2 or 3 good friends that I can communicate with, but I can't communicate with you all on the same level, because you all can't receive the same thing that I might have to give that occurred in my life. So I can tell one certain things, and I can tell another certain thing, and I can tell another. And I specifically told one, the reason why I can't tell you certain things is because no matter what, you want to read Bible all day long in every communication and conversation. That's why we don't talk as much as we do, but you're a good brother. So we got to know how to balance and be there for each other and understanding each other rather than just want to feed each other the book. We got the book, and hence, I'll say this and I'll be quiet. That's why I opened my chapter with, you're not going to get much scripture in my dialogue. I already understand. Pray about it. God will deliver, and God will. I call that the precursor. We already know that. We've been walking this walk long enough. We know that. Now I need some help.
Yeah, that's good. You was talking about, like, the men needing the men, right? Dimitri, at the time that you needed the man the most, the man wasn't there. Once you're growing up and you're going, and then you go to California, you thinking, hey, this is going to be it. I'm gonna spend time with my father, and then you realize, hey, he's not coming back with me. How is it to need that man, need your father at a young age, and he's not there?
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough because I didn't understand why. I had for years, I had so many questions. Why was this? Why was that? Why couldn't y'all have worked it out? What was it? Was it something with me? What was it? And I wanted my dad, but see, the thing was, when I came, so my mother raised me, but I also grew up in the house with my grandmother. And because I was in a single parent home, my mom worked all the time. And so when she wasn't home from work, I was with my grandmother. So at some point, my mother moved us out of the projects, but my grandmother still lived in the projects. Excuse me. She still lived in the projects. So going back and forth to school, I was back in the projects. And so I was looking for something. I wanted somebody to fill a void. And I knew I wanted my dad, but it was just like, it was something inside of me that was empty. and everything that I saw around me began to become attractive. I remember, just growing up around guys that were older than me because I ended up falling behind an older crowd. They were already hustling, they were making money, they had the things that I thought I wanted, And I know in Proverbs it talks about the harlot, and it talks about like the alluring seductress. And for me, that's what the streets became for me. It was like a harlot. It's like it was alluring and pulling me in. But it also talks about the harlot and says that who can bring fire to them and not get burned. Well, I got burned over and over and over again, from drug dealing to drug using. I remember, being proud of having all the drugs to sell, being known in the neighborhood as, yeah, he got it. But there was a person that meant a lot to me that was killed, and in their death, so a really good friend of mine in the business, he brought me in to a higher level in the drug game. And this one particular night, some guys that we were dealing with, they came and we had a conversation. We didn't know why they were there, because it was out of the ordinary. They were out of state also. And that particular night, I had gone back in the house to get something, and then one of the guys came in and he had a gun pointed at me. And he and the other guy, they laid me down and take me up. Well, then they went back onto the front porch where my friend was, and I heard the gunshots. And so they killed him. Well, then they came back in the room where I was and stood over me with the gun, and I witnessed the clip expanding that it would not fit in the gun. I didn't really know I was seeing a miracle at the time. I just knew that this guy, who I knew this wasn't his first rodeo, he couldn't get it in the gun. So I got up and I got out of the window. And I remember going to a buddy of mine after that, and he was smoking what we call woolly blunt, cracking a blunt. And he said, "You know what this is?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know. Let me hit it." I was always against crack. I would sell it, but I would never use it. And so I was always against it. But this particular night is when I first started using. I started smoking. And it was like everything from one perception of me as a dealer now started going down to as a user, where things that I once had, I started losing. And I kept turning. For me, cocaine ended up being my father. For me, it was like my safe space. It was like, I know I need to talk to somebody, but I don't know who to take this to. Because it seemed like everybody that I have close around me to take this to, they're either going to judge me, or they're dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with. They don't really have a solution for me because they don't have a solution for themselves. So I would take whatever I was feeling, and I would express it while I was getting high. I would get high and I would just sit there and talk, just talk in the air, And for a long time, that was and drinking. That was my mode of getting things off of me. But yet I was still struggling. And it was hard. And even just thinking back to those days, it's like, I thank God for bringing me out, because there were so many times that I was supposed to be dead. That wasn't the first time that somebody had pointed a gun at me with the intent on killing me. It was just this particular time. It was like I witnessed something that I had to say. And even when I was telling people what happened, they said, "Well, do you mean the clip expanded?" I said, "Yeah, the clip expanded. Like, it got bigger than what it was before." And it didn't, some people, they was like, "I don't know about that. That's it don't make sense. Like, where you getting this from? Were you high when this was happening?" I'm like, "No, I wasn't high, but I know what I saw." And so that was really, I think, for the first time that when I saw God perform a miracle on my behalf. But I didn't run to him. Then I ran even further away. And I got more and more depressed, more and more depressed. You know, weed used to be my drug of choice. Now my drug of choice was cocaine. And so I kind of felt at some point, well, as far as with my dad, I'm like, well, if you don't like me, I don't like you. Whatever. I'll figure this out on my own. And that was my mentality. But the more and more I sought to try to figure my life out, it seemed like the worse and worse my life got. And I'm thankful, honestly, I'm thankful to be here. And so, like anybody, anywhere, you know, I tell anybody my story, like there's always another side. You know, you just have to keep pressing and keep pressing. And what I understand about rejection is that it'll hold you hostage, you know, and it will hold you to a place that where you will begin, even in relationships, you'll begin to reject them because you're going to push out on them what you're used to experiencing yourself. And so I was held hostage, and I saw myself going through life holding other people hostage. We used to call it telling lies and selling dreams. I tell you whatever I need to tell you to make you feel good for this moment, but then I'm going on about my business. And then I disappointed a lot of people. But what also took place was just the whole hostage piece is that I began to overpromise and underproduce. And so it got me into a situation where it was like, I couldn't even keep up with all the lies that I had said, you know, and then that itself will put you in a place because all you know is rejection. That's all you seem to get is that the rejection is saying like, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what, it's always like something would trigger you to feel less than. And so that's my piece with that.
That's awesome. Taquel, I notice your body gesture once he started talking about rejection, like you have had some experience with rejection. And you know what? I don't think women realize how much rejection men go through. I was talking to a lady the other day and I was telling her, I was like, you know, some men battle with being faithful because, you know, they're not used to actually women coming on to them. You know, they're so used to, you know, them trying to approach a woman, getting the courage to ask for the number, getting the courage to ask for X, Y, and Z or whatever. And the woman says no, and not realizing that they finally go through this rejection. And then all of a sudden, you know, they get into the military or they have a uniform or they get some type of rank. They end up getting some type of money or anything like that. And then all of a sudden women are just coming at them left to right. They get a ring on their finger and it becomes a magnet for other women, and they don't know how to handle that because they're so used to being rejected. They're so used to actually going through rejection on different levels. But you know, how do men handle rejection?
I think a lot of times we overlook rejection, right? So rejection happens and we don't deal with it properly. Right. And so, like he said, a lot of times we put that on other people. And that's one of my big things. And that's why my face, you know, my facial expressions, because a lot of times you get rejection from, you know, relationships, you get rejections from family, you get rejection from friends. And so you stop expecting. And that's one of the big things. And so then even dealing with having to understand the purpose of things. And so one thing that Miles Monroe said a while ago, when purpose is when purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable, right? And so when you don't have purpose on what's happening, a lot of times now abuse is right there smacking your face. And that's one thing that I had to learn dealing with relationships, dealing with friendships, dealing with anything around me, is that if I didn't have a purpose for it, then I was wasting my time, right? And I was wasting your time. And so it took for me to be rejected. It took for me to, you know, a lot of things to sit down in my face, or people to shoot things in my face, or me to feel, you know, kind of slow per se, or whatever you want to call it. Dealing with that rejection, now I'm able to kind of, you know, I make a good dollar now, you know. So now it's, you know, people are of course after me. I'm publishing another book right now, you know. So now again, people are, you know, hey, what's up? Can I do this? Can we go here? Can we do this? I'm working on my PhD. So again, a lot of times people, they see that I drive a Benz. So a lot of things like that, it makes them come after you. But now you put on that big hat as like, you know, I'm good. Like you didn't want me. It's the song, right? You didn't want me back then. Now you want me when I'm all high. You know, I'm good. Don't try to holler at me now. And so that's one of the big things with me. Again, still, I'm not going to lie and say that rejection isn't an issue. Because when I look at a picture or when I look at something that I want to pursue, regardless of what it is, right? The fear of being rejected is in the back of my mind. And so it's just like, do I move past it? What do I do? Those kind of things. And so yeah, that's me. I'll say that.
Awesome. Manning, so in your book you talked about, they say it's lonely at the top, but you mentioned that it was lonely in your head. Getting in your head, like sometimes we get to a place that because we don't have anyone to that we feel heard as speaking to sometimes. And so we begin to start having those conversations inwardly. We begin to start talking to ourselves inwardly, and we realize that, hey, it's lonely inside of here. Talk about that.
So, it becomes a cycle when you're working and you're focused on doing things for other people, for the military perspective, because that's where I spent so much of my life. And then you get going and you start to think about yourself and no one to go to and no one to talk to. And so I developed a saying, and the reality was, it's lonely at the top. And so, great example, Tish, you would have never known when I was going through, because of what you seen every day was someone that was always thriving. But there was many days when my head was hurting and I didn't want to be there, and I had to figure out how and the what, and I would take sayings that pastors would give to me or whatever. I would pull into work every day and I'd be sitting there in the parking lot, and I would say to myself, all right, got to go through this day, get it together, but the righteousness of God has arrived. And then I would go in, and that was like my mantra of starting off, like guys going into a game and you're getting pumped up. That was my pump me up to make it through the day. But inside, whatever was going on at home, whatever you had to deal with, you carrying everyone else's load. So, and you don't want to share with everyone, because now once we develop more in life, we understand we can't trust everybody. And that's where it comes in, giving someone our thoughts and, and having them keep them and embrace them. So I was at a service, and the pastor would begin to educate us, and the bishop, and teach on in Genesis. And he was talking about man and woman and being married. And he said something that was so profound. He gave the Greek and the Hebrew about this, that, and the other. But one of the key things he said was, the reason why he finds a wife finds a good thing, because he is giving something to the woman. Now, he backed it all up with everything. He said, but we give our heart to the woman, and we want someone who can take our heart and hold it and protect it. Said, and so that's why you see men going from woman to woman to woman, because we're not ready, or the man at the time is not ready to give his heart to that woman, because you make things too easy. If it becomes too easy, you can't hold my heart, because you're not a long-term woman for me. So he'll keep on bouncing around. And so understanding that it's just like giving your heart, just like giving the information and giving things, because you want to trust someone with what I have to tell you and what I give to you. And I don't need to hear it again or what have you. Hence, it becomes lonely at the top, and you're by yourself doing things, or even at home expressing yourself. Sometimes you just don't want to say what you feel, because I want to protect feelings in the house and everyone around me, and leadership. Understand. I know I got a Marine out there, so understand we can be known to be hotheads and things of that nature. And they look at you and you're the only soldier in the house, and things of that nature. So it's like, who can I talk to understand? And it's lonely at the top. Now, a lot of people would say that you shouldn't talk to other females about certain things, trying to understand your house or another woman. But who is better to help you than another woman when it comes from certain issues? You just got to be careful of that woman and the intent and who you're talking with. Hence, I go back to my sister. That's why I had my sister there. But she would tell me when I was going down the wrong path, or I approached it wrong, or what it sounded like when you said. So it's those things of understanding, that makes it sometimes lonely at the top.
Awesome. So I'm going to give everyone the same question, but the ages is going to be different. The ages is going to be different. Dimitri, if you was talking to the 10-year-old version of you, what advice would you give to that person now from what you've learned now? So kind of everybody, what would you go back and type of advice would you give that person? Hold on, I'm saying 10 years old, but I'm pretty sure we don't have any 10-year-olds watching this. Let me up these ages a little bit. Let me give you 23. 23. What would you go back and tell Dimitri at that time now to help him for today?
If I was to go back and talk to my 23-year-old self or someone at that age, I would tell myself, don't do it. And I would tell myself, don't believe it. Because at the age of 23, or in that age frame, I really believe all the lies. I thought that happiness, joy, peace, anything you name it, that sound like halfway something that would be good. I thought those things would come by the amount of money that I was able to attain. And so I didn't understand at that age what real love was. I didn't even understand at that age that the things that I was feeling, that I could actually sit down and talk to somebody and think of and come up with maybe a plan or strategy or a different perception of how I was looking at myself and how I was looking at my life. I will also tell my 23-year-old self, don't just think for today, think for tomorrow. Because I made a lot of mistakes around that age frame of where I was not thinking about tomorrow. I wasn't thinking about down the road. I was only thinking about that particular moment. And a lot of those moments I made choices that, I regret, So yeah, I would tell myself, don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Awesome. Taquel, I'm gonna give you 30. Go back, talk to the 30-year-old.
To the 30-year-old me, I would say fear will contaminate your faith. And so with that being said, be careful, be mindful not to allow your emotions to make your decisions. You are enough, regardless of what happens, regardless of how you think, what comes your way. Again, you were not only crafted for this, but you were chosen for this. And so, the Bible says many are called, but few are chosen. You were called and chosen. And so that's one of the things, is making sure that you realize that fear definitely will contaminate your faith and it will stunt your growth. You have this, you are enough. You are more than enough.
Awesome. Manning, going to give you 42.
Yeah, I would have to tell the 42-year-old Manning to seek help and not hold everything in. Find the right people to talk to, even if it's counseling. You have to seek counseling because I've held too much in over too long. And now I'm working through it. And even we're working through it, sometimes you just become cautious of the who and the what. But I would just have to tell that man, hey, find the person to talk with, get counseling, because you're going to be better for it in the end.
Awesome. We have a few minutes left. I want to just open the floor up and give author you any opportunity to say anything that you want, any closing remarks. Taquel, I also know you have another book, Broken. And so if you want to tell them exactly how to get that book as well, how to reach out to any of you. So I'm going to release the floor to y'all to say whatever you need to say.
So I am an author of Broken. You can purchase it on Amazon. You can contact me. My email is taquell22@gmail.com. My Facebook is TA_QUELL. I also have another page with my TAQUELL, MORRISRODRIGUEZ. So that's my full name. And that's where I post just excerpts from the book. and just real life things in that nature. And again, I am now in the final stages of publishing another book. And so all of these things are, of course, just making, my biggest thing is I just want to be effective, right? I don't have to necessarily be rich. I just want to be effective in helping someone cultivate and curate who they are and what their real calling is. So again, you can contact me on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. All of the hashtags, all of the handles are the same. Thank you.
Awesome. Dimitri, do you have any closing remarks or anything?
Yes, I want to say, I just want to encourage everybody and just say, don't allow rejection or anything like that to cripple you. Move forward, move forward in a healthy way. Anything that you're dealing with, don't be afraid to find help, but find help with someone that is going to be a trusted source. It's too many people taking their own lives because they don't know how to deal with stress and they don't have a trusted source to deal with to help them. And so that will be like the main thing. Find a trusted source. Don't allow years and years and years to go by and you're internalizing everything, because that's not going to be something that's going to help you, but it's going to be something that's going to hinder you. So thank you for that. And also, I have a website, DimitriRainer.com. I am also an author, and my book About Face, you can find it on my website. You can also go to Amazon and find my book there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram as Dimitri Rainer. And for everybody that's tuning in, I pray that everything that God has for you, that you walk into it.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to say real quick before Manning speaks. Manning is actually one of our honorees for the Renewed Mind in Christ Conference. What we was doing was we was wanting to honor those that were in the 7 mountains. Up under Manning's leadership, once I tell you how he was saying earlier, I don't know how many had tuned in earlier and paid attention to, he said, hey, Tish, y'all might not know what I was going through. He handled what he needed to handle in the car, and then he got out. But he was an amazing leader. But he also displayed that he was a man of God. Never heard this man cuss. And for people that have been in the military, you could tell how rare that is. That is very rare to have someone in the military. And right. But I never heard him cuss. I've never heard him really get out of character or anything like that. He displayed that he was still a man of God, even in the military, even while serving, even while leading, even while going through his secret battles, whatever his secret battles or inner battles was. This is why we're honoring Dexter Manning as someone that did in government and politics, because that is very hard. Once it comes to the military, that is a dark world to be in. And he was the light in a dark place. And at the time, I did not realize it under his leadership. I realized it afterwards. I realized it years later after I got right. But it was people like him that along the way that they still made an earmark in time on my life. And he's one of them. And so we're actually honoring Dexter Manning at the conference, at the Renewed Mind in Christ Conference. So Dexter Manning, I'll leave the mic over to you.
Hey, thank you for all those kind words. As you're speaking, I was somewhat lost my train of thought for what I wanted to say and come together to say, but I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm a simple guy. I don't try to be political and say all this other stuff and find the right words to say to sound good. And so hence, I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to just tell you what was on my heart, that this was an awesome experience just to be on this cast and especially talking with you two gentlemen. And my heart was saying, I'm looking forward to meeting you all and just talking and getting to know more about you and what's going on. And hopefully we can find a newfound connection to just be iron and sharpen each other, because we use the term as a cliche too often. So everyone needs to have someone that they can go to and talk to and understand each other, and just, to be there to embrace saying, brother, I feel you, I've been there. And there's no judgment after the fact, and just move on. I'm very glad and to see that your entrepreneurs and the book writing and all that stuff. It is awesome. Man of God, proud of the book. And I've been like, I'll start something, then I'll stop, and start something, then I'll stop. And it's still on the computer somewhere. And then when this opportunity came, I was like, nah, I don't have the time right now and whatever. And then, you know, someone said to me, but I really need the men. And I was like, okay, I got you. You know, my timing, but I got it. And so it's encouragement, you know, to see you guys and what you're doing. And so it gives me a little unction saying, go ahead and put the pen to paper and write down what God has given you, because you got it. We have so many things of thinking alike and what we're going through that man, I'll tell you, you know, you guys just really blessed my heart on tonight. You really did bless my heart. And you know, I love to hear your thoughts on where the church is going as well, because we touched on a little bit some of that tonight. And I say, you know, we're still in that age bracket. I'm not telling my age on the night, but we're in that age bracket. And we know I got a lot of gray going on here, but you know, some of y'all just keep shaving. That's all. But you know, we're the church of the future, and we had a great foundation. But if we don't open our eyes, the church is going to be lost. The church is going to be lost because there's all kind of ideas and ideology, and the internet is tearing it apart. And you know, so I'll leave it at that. But man, you guys are a blessing. I thank you for the opportunity, and prayerfully we'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Listen, guys, thank you. It was an honor to have y'all write with us. I'm very thankful for it. Like you said, we needed the men's voice. We truly needed the men's voice. And I thank y'all for being the men that actually open up your mouth, actually open up and speak like that. It's men that sometimes get the books and just support it. And I'm going to give a quick testimony. Have a brother that's not in the church, but my brother will sometimes pick up my books and he will read. And my brother's not okay. He's not okay. So the fact that once he picks up this book this time, I know that I have some men's voices in there that can speak to his heart. I know that I have some men that can share from a male's perspective what he may need to hear. So I thank y'all just for opening up and being that letting your chapters be something that can be an evangelistic tool for other men. So I thank you all. And again, I cannot wait to see y'all in June. And listen to the listeners, if you have not got your ticket, make sure you go to the website tonight, www.ferventlycreations.com. You know what? I forgot. I said I was going to do this again tonight. We give away a free ticket. Erica McNeil. I don't know where she's at. Erica McNeil. Make sure you message me, get in touch with me, and get you a free ticket to the conference. To me, it's not about the money. I truly believe in this vision. And if I can give someone that opportunity to come, I definitely would like to. So Erica McNeil, make sure that you reach out to me and I will send you a code. There she goes. She said, that's me. I will send you a code so you can register for your free ticket tonight. And cannot wait to see you in June as well, Erica. With that being said, we are going to end the show. Again, thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yes.
My team rap Jesus. We about to go far.